is episode 24, right?
I think it's 24, 25, 23, one of those three.
You can see how well prepared we are before every show. We'll try to catch some questions. If you guys, we'll do like a little question and answer at the end, but let's get going. Welcome, guys. This is episode 24 of Riven Live, and this is our first time we're going live on Periscope. We have a small but growing audience, so we really appreciate your support. Here in about 5 minutes, Stash, will you keep paying attention? I see you're on. Will you choose 2 or 3 people? In fact, if we have 6 people, let's just give a piece of Riven to everybody that's watching this live broadcast. So let's give 1 free piece of Riven. If you guys want to like email support at Riven Gear, we'll give each of you a free piece of gear for like going through this live experience for us first, right? I mean, that's pretty cool for the first time. I personally believe that the live experience stuff is kind of going to be the future of like where everything is going with social. So we want to introduce our guest for this is the Letice or TC Jones / Jolley. I always know her as TC Jones, and she's been my friend for probably at least 20 years, and we went to high school together. And there you go. Good. TC, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of like who you are and what you're doing currently? Like where you're from?
I am originally from Draper, Utah. And I live now in Arizona, in Gilbert, Arizona. We're here, I'm with my kids here on spring break, and they built a snowman this morning. So
that's Utah.
Yeah. Built a snowman.
Yeah, they did.
They're up in Draper on the benches. There's snow.
Oh. Yeah, it's melting, but there was a snowman.
Wow. Once there was a snowman, very early this morning.
It was this big,
yeah.
But they did it.
So you live in Arizona now, and do you work or?
I kind of work. I have a weird job. It's kind of like a one time a year I plan this event. We go to the Reno Air Races with the company that I work for, DP Air Corporation. And I used to work there full time and then part time, and now. So
time out real quick, because you were there during that big air crash
a couple
of years ago, weren't you?
In 2011.
Yeah. What was that like?
Crazy. It crashed about 35 feet from where our box was.
That's right. Yeah, I remember that.
And there was the landing gear landed in our box, so we had to like lift it up, but luckily there was no injuries.
A few people died there, right?
11 or 12.
Yeah.
Spectators?
It was like
the pilots and then some spectators.
Yeah.
So the air show that you work with, is it acrobatics or is it like a military air show?
It's both. It's they do it in Reno, and it's it's
aerobatics, not acrobatics.
It's both.
They call them both. I thought acrobatics was like gymnasts.
I was just gonna let you get away with that.
Yeah. So you work with the air show. I just thought it was interesting that you were there during that catastrophe, because I know it was like happened right next to you.
It was like a war zone. There was lots of just body parts.
So you've had an exciting life, for sure.
That's what we'll call it.
So, and then what does your husband do? What does John do?
He works for a company. They're called Mercer, and he pretty much is a total nerd. And he sits in front of Excel spreadsheets all day and puts fairly large companies on healthcare plans. He got a text. Oh. Healthcare plans. So it's boring.
Which seems interesting to me because TC's husband was the president he was the class president, class clown / entertainer. He's the best white guy that can dance like Michael Jackson ever.
It's very true.
So, and I know that he posted a video recently, and he still has his moves.
Really?
Yeah. We'll have to link up a video of John somewhere dancing.
He taught me how to do the moonwalk because I was getting so much crap for not knowing how to do it.
Literally, he won class president because he could dance well Michael Jackson.
Yep. Like
he would he would go up and be like, dance Michael Jackson, and everybody voted.
I always wanted to be able to break dance. I grew up around military kids that could break dance, and I was one of the few that couldn't.
And then you realized you were white.
I could bob my head.
Yeah.
Do the side.
Barely. I didn't even do that. I just kept it vertical.
So one of the things that we've really wanted, I've wanted TC to come on the podcast for quite a while sometime, but she lives in Arizona, and so we scheduled it to where it would be convenient. But one of the things I really admire TC from afar is how completely open and honest she's been about some of the struggles that she's had in life. And particularly one of the things we might verge into another topic or two along the way, and we'll for sure have to have you back at another time.
Okay.
But TC struggled with an eating disorder, which I think a lot of people were in the fitness industry were very connected into that world. And I think that this will be something that really resonates with a lot of people that follow us and kind of pay attention to what we're doing. So one, I want to thank you for being so brave and willing to talk to us. But I really feel like, we have this concept where if we can just help one person or spread a positive message to one person each time, it's totally worth the effort. So if you kind of want to maybe take us through your history on how it started and what your experience has been.
Okay. It started before I even knew what was going on, really. I was really young. When did we
Probably
in
junior high, 13, 14. And I never knew, and I didn't know what an eating, I just knew you were skinny and little. That's all I knew.
So were you anorexic or bulimic or both?
Probably both. I was diagnosed with anorexia when I went inpatient in 2008. I went to Remuda Ranch, which is in Wickenburg, Arizona, nowhere, Arizona. But as I was, I don't even know why those, I don't know if it was obsession with weight or if I just felt like it was some way to control my situation when things would start happening. But I didn't even know what I was doing had a definition of an eating disorder. I was probably 10 or 11 when I started just kind of restricting or, but again, I wasn't aware. I didn't.
When you say restricting, what would you do? Just not eat certain things?
Yeah, I would. That was back in the day where everything was no fat.
Yeah.
So if it was no fats.
But you already heard and were aware of people avoiding fat even at 10?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's
it was
pretty.
the age of no fat yogurt, no fat milk, no fat. You know how every generation kind of has
I have a friend that used to work for me, a girl that this was in the no fat time, and she kept getting fatter and fatter, and she's like, Adam, I know you care about fitness. I don't understand. I'm getting fatter and fatter, and I don't have any fat. All I eat is Swedish fish and drink Dr. Pepper. And I'm getting fatter every day. I'm like, well, I can tell you that's probably not your best idea. I mean,
I think
that's not the no fat thing definitely got overblown.
People forgot that no fat doesn't mean no calories.
Yeah, and that sugar actually turns to fat easier than fat.
Exactly. The carbs. So as I was getting older, I think when I was probably around 16 is when I was purging more often. I didn't necessarily
when you were 16?
go through.
And so I knew
That's
you
when we
pretty
knew each
well.
other.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
You didn't have a reputation.
I was
in high school,
very
nobody
quiet.
had you didn't have a reputation for having an eating disorder or nobody whispered.
Yeah.
Anything about it.
It was, my best friends didn't know. I knew that it wasn't healthy, and I was embarrassed and ashamed, and so it wasn't something that I went out and I didn't even just confide in my best friends about it. So my parents found out when I was 16 because I guess I was showing some sort of patterns, and one of our teachers, a health teacher, I don't even remember her name.
Goodmanson?
No,
she was.
She was the
Hardcastle.
No.
I don't remember. That's the only teachers I can remember.
I should. And
she was obviously a big.
Oh yeah, okay.
Do you know?
Yeah,
Am
I can
getting
vaguely
it right?
remember.
She saw that I was maybe having her sister struggled, and so she recognized some patterns and called my parents. And I got a note, because we didn't have cell phones back then, that said, "Hey, Dad and I really want to talk to you tonight. Can we take you to dinner?" And it happened to be the night where Jordan and Alta were playing, and I was on a Friday night, and I'm thinking, why would they know that I'm going to this game? And so I felt like right then I thought, they know what's going on. I knew it, and they did.
And were you totally
How old are you?
aware?
This is you were 17?
16, junior
Okay.
year.
But by that time, you were fully aware you had a problem.
I was, but wasn't, because I wasn't purging everything that I ate. I would every couple of days, or if I felt a certain way. And it wasn't like a binge purge. It wasn't, which is common, but But if I just was having a bad day, even if it was just a salad, I would have issues with that. So it wasn't practical. It wasn't thought through. Like, salads don't really have calories, so why would I do this here and not on this meal? It was probably more emotional. So I didn't think that my health was at risk, or really. But they found out, and we talked about it openly, and I started kind of going to counseling. And as my life progressed, as you know, I played softball for the University of Utah. Sorry, I'm getting that in there.
Yeah, that'll our fans. We have to be hardcore Cougar fans now again, huh, Adam?
No, we can be. I'm into.
He's
I'm
like,
into
no.
both. I mean, my boys.
We're gonna play.
They're both stoked about. I mean, Cooper
BYU?
would be happy about either one. Well, my
We'll
one
see,
boy's
one-
going to BYU.
Yeah.
My older one, and then my younger one, he's a ninth grader,
Yeah.
so he's got plenty of time
To
to.
see.
We'll see where
Figure it
he's
out.
gonna go.
Yeah.
Well, my
that's
husband
right.
went to BYU, so I can plug for both of them.
So you're playing softball,
Yeah, and so I was always pretty aware of.
and you were like athletic, so you were
Yeah.
supposed to be in shape. And,
Yeah, yeah, and I never wanted to risk my health when it came to softball. That was always I have to eat for softball. So that probably kept me healthy. But as that went away and then life got complicated and hard, in 2007, we moved to Arizona, my family and I. We had the two boys at the
How
time.
come you guys moved to Arizona?
For John's job.
Okay.
He got a
So
job.
you were married, is what you're saying.
Married,
At that time,
mhm.
you were married and had
Yeah.
2 kids.
So
Yeah,
were
which is
you
crazy.
struggling with the eating disorder in that time between like when you were in high school and like getting early married? And John, did you still struggle with it?
Struggled, but not. Wasn't all consuming.
Was John aware of it? Like,
He
did he know
was.
it was something that you'd
He
struggled with?
did. I told him before we got married. I felt like I owed that to him,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought he'd run for the hills. I thought he'd take off, but he didn't. Sucker.
So then, I mean, I know that in the last, probably 10 years is when it's been the biggest struggle, would you
Yeah,
say? When-
which is weird because you'd think it would be more before you have this established family, and but it was.
So once you had kids, do you think that like having kids contributed to that at all? Like, did you feel worse about yourself or your body post like babies or?
I did post babies, but I got really crazy back into working out and stuff. So that helped. And genetically, my mom didn't gain very much weight when she was pregnant. My sisters didn't, so I didn't. I know that's a lot of times it really is just genetics. And so that wasn't huge for me. I think the move and then having the 2 young boys, and then we were in the process of adopting Annabelle. And then I found out that my husband had a pornography addiction. And I think that the mentality of him having that and just where my brain was when it came to my own body image issues, I think that was definitely the triggering point. I don't blame him because obviously I still had my own decisions, but that definitely sent me over the
So
top.
that is where you would say was like the big trigger point was obviously you felt maybe he was doing that and then it was a stressor, and why would he be looking at that?
I
And
blame
then so it
myself.
like compounded.
Yes.
Okay.
And for about a year, I knew that mentally I was not in a really good place because I was blaming myself, but I just was getting through it. And I think it was after almost a year exactly, I just couldn't do it anymore. And I didn't make this conscious effort like, I'm not going to eat anymore, or I'm going to make him suffer because of this. I just stopped eating, and it was probably 45 days after that I was impatient because you just
So-
stop eating and it just.
So how
deteriorates.
soon after you found out kind of this earth-shattering news for you were you like in the depths of your eating disorder?
I found out July of 2007. July of 2008 is actually when I stopped eating, August of 2008, and I was in Remuda September. of
So you'd
2008.
struggled for about a year, and then it got really bad, where you went through a period where you just stopped
I just
eating.
Stopped.
Okay, that's
And-
the one thing. That's the one thing that's been the hardest thing for me to understand about
Yeah.
an eating disorder. Are you having a conflict between obvious natural urge to be hungry and overcoming that with the desire to not eat for whatever reason is making you not eat? I mean, aren't you feeling really hungry and you're just saying, no, I'm not going to eat? Are you fighting your
Yeah,
body is fighting with
definitely.
your brain?
Yeah, it does. It does. It's a weird concept because before I was a teenager, food became it became conflicting in itself because I would feel guilt just to eat. And I think a lot of women will eat, and after, even if it's something healthy, that a lot of times we're like, oh, I ate too much, or I shouldn't have eaten that. And it's just part of the way we are and the way we think and the way we talk. Without even thinking, we'll be like, oh, I shouldn't have had that ice cream, or I shouldn't have had. So food started, I knew that I needed it for fuel, but at the same time, I felt like really dirty or gross after I ate. And so a part of me just got exhausted and thought, I'm not going to deal with this inner battle anymore. And so I would want to stop eating. And eventually that part that said you have to eat just shut off. And
you stop feeling hungry?
Yeah, you stop feeling hungry. You stop feeling everything. It's a weird kind of drug because you don't feel, when you're in starvation, your body can't register emotion. And so it's kind of like you can do whatever you want and I can't respond because
So
I'm starving.
do you, in a way, maybe, I'm sure you've analyzed this a bunch, but was that a way of like dealing with the pain you were feeling, do you think?
Absolutely.
Like just kind of like
Now
getting
make
that-
sure we're understanding. We're talking about the pain of your husband's.
My husband's
okay.
stuff,
All
yeah.
right.
Yeah, of just kind of like numbing yourself to it, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's something you can control and like, because I mean, I've read a lot of your
Yeah.
blogs and posts and stuff like that. You talked about your like conflict with food, which is interesting to me. Where does that come from? Because I'm sure there's probably other women or men out there that are struggling
Yeah.
with that. Where does that conflict? Because I don't have that conflict.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I mean, well, I just don't. You know, it's like, oh, I
I've
eat
I've never gotten to the point where I don't feel hungry. I've never not eaten long enough that I stopped feeling hungry.
Yeah.
Yeah, where do you or
you
experts think
feel-
that conflict comes from, where you have that like at odds with food?
So my mom's a therapist, ironically, and she told me that she might have changed her mind. This was a couple years ago. She said, I would not touch eating disorders with a 10-foot pole because they are so complicated and they can be really unique to the individual. So it's hard to answer that for everyone. But for me, the conflict... Well, and the strange thing is because I was blaming myself for what my husband was doing. I thought if I was pretty or if I was skinny or if I looked like the girls on TV do, then he'll stop. I thought I could fix it. So it seemed to work in my favor because a part of me believed that whole idea that it has everything to do with me. And if I could just be the girl on the X-Men that morphs into whoever in any different... What's her name? That you know who I'm talking about. The one that her X-Man power
Yeah,
is.
and what is her name?
She can turn into... Isn't she
You mean
Katniss?
his pornography?
Yeah,
his
Jennifer.
pornography thing was the blue scaly chick.
No, that she could turn into anyone. Because really, now that
Psylocke.
No.
Dude, you're talking to the wrong dude, bro. I know a chick that
But
turned
yeah,
blue.
her. But that's
Got
her.
blue and
He's closer
scaly.
than you.
Yeah, but her name's
No, that was
played
John
by Rebecca
Stamos.
Romaine.
No, that was
Nerds, yeah,
Rebecca
anyway.
Romaine. Rebecca Romaine. Stamos.
Oh, yeah,
Rebecca
that's who
Romaine
it
Stamos.
is.
Initially,
You
before it was
know.
Jennifer Lawrence.
But she wasn't. No, I'm saying, wasn't it Rebecca Romaine was the blue chick?
Yeah.
At first, now it's Jennifer
Oh,
Now
Lawrence.
it's
okay.
Jennifer Lawrence.
Good.
Katniss.
And she did pornography.
No.
No, what he's saying,
What I'm
she's
saying
saying
is-
she wishes she could turn into whoever the
Oh,
ideal
I
was.
got you.
Pornography, like there's not one
I got
fix.
you. Oh, I got you.
But I thought that if I could just be everything, if he
Oh.
wanted this day or this
But
this
you thought
day.
he was really into the blue scaly.
No.
girl? Like, man, he has more issues than pornography.
No, just metaphorically how
Oh,
she can
okay.
change into any girl.
Oh,
So
okay.
I could be this person and then this
Okay.
person. And so I thought that I also was fixing him. So it was just all of these different angles of, I already had this issue with food. I already had these insecurities and these body image issues. And the one person that I thought would accept me for who I was, didn't look like that when his pornography addiction came out. Now I've learned a lot more about pornography addiction, and I've learned that it doesn't have anything to do with me, nothing to do with me. But at the time, I thought I had everything. So
well, and even though you know that, it's hard to know that and
Yes.
like, accept it and
Totally.
like, internalize that and know that like,
Yes.
well, I know it's not that, but it feels
it
like
does. It totally
feels
feels
like
like
it.
that.
Okay, so what's the difference between a guy who looks at pornography and a guy who's addicted to pornography?
Good question. I think that this is coming out of the woodworks with pornography and addiction, and how they're starting to see that it actually has the same neurological effects
As heroin?
Yeah. And it's
heard
like
that.
science, and because people think pornography could be healthy, it could be, it's normal, it's natural, but now they're seeing these studies. And I would say if somebody doesn't want to look at pornography and they keep doing it, that's a sign that maybe it has a pull on you. It's kind of like if an alcoholic, people can drink alcohol and not be alcoholics, but there's something that might switch in someone, and they can tell that it kind of has, now they have to drink all the time.
well,
they
and it
drink
becomes
too much.
life disruptive too,
Yes.
right? Like I think
You're
that's,
lying to your spouse, you're lying to your boss, you're lying to whoever. You know, that's where I would think.
And it's like keeping you from being productive in your normal life. I mean,
Yeah.
you're
or affecting relationships.
Yeah.
okay.
Well, yeah, I mean that's honestly a whole other topic that we'd
Yeah,
love
yeah,
to
yeah.
get your
Sorry.
expertise on. Honestly, I think
expertise.
that's probably going to be something that a lot of people would be equally interested in as well. We'll have to do a podcast on that. But so you felt essentially like, obviously we've established that really kind of was a trigger and an influence, but I'm curious, as you know, your husband, you know, even though obviously he had his things he was dealing with, how did he handle with the fact that his wife just won't eat, you know, or like it's hard, it's like just eat food, like how is it?
And a lot of people would say that, especially when I got so bad that it was obvious. A lot of people would say things like, don't you love your kids? Can't you just eat? Like, why would you let this happen? Just eat a meal so that you can stay with your kids. And of course, that I was judging myself on that level too. And so I just thought I was the worst person. So selfish, who does this? But John, I mean, it was scary because he had never seen me that bad, and I had never seen me that bad.
What was the
lowest point?
what was the lightest you ever got?
Oh, my weight? Probably close to 100 pounds.
And you're normally like what?
Like 120, 115.
And
That's
so,
actually not. I mean, that's.
I actually
You
don't
mean-
know because I feel like I feel like there was a 30-pound drop. That's what I was told.
yeah.
It's like a big fog.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
physically, what was the worst it got, or what was like the low point? I mean, you were.
I was passing out all the time. I thought I was a really responsible human being because I was driving carpool, and as soon as I started passing out, I called my friend and said I couldn't drive carpool, and I was like, oh, I'm such a responsible mom. And I really did. I was really like, this means that I'm still
control,
making right
yeah.
choices.
Yeah.
But my liver started failing. I started going into liver failure, and
Would
that
you drink water too, or
I did drink, and I drank tons of Diet Coke, and I would take pills. So when people say, "How did you function? How did you have
When
energy?"
you
Like
say
what
pills,
kind of
what are you
pills?
talking about?
Diet pills,
Oh, really?
stuff that was like ephedra related. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure my heart was going like this on no food.
So and then you ended up being outpatient or
Inpatient.
inpatient. So how long were you? What caused you to go into the hospital? Were you?
I think that I freaked out when I found out the results of like my liver. And so that woke me up. That really woke me up. Just people telling me, and even just passing out, I still thought, and I've talked to obviously lots of women who've gone through this, and it's true, we are just kind of like, no, I was fine. I could have stopped passing out at any time, and kind of like
Eat
a
a
drug
little more,
addict, kind
yeah.
of like an alcoholic. I'm fine. We're the last ones to realize. But that freaked me out. My health started feeling like this could be really permanent if I don't get something figured out.
Well, you know, this seems, and I don't want to try to blame anyone, but it seems like, I mean, because I have a 10-year-old son, and he's oblivious to the kind of things that you were aware of at that
Yeah.
age. Do you remember your mom and dad telling you, oh, that's bad for you? Do you remember them saying, you don't want to eat that or you're going to get fat? I mean, I'm not trying to assign blame to
Yeah.
your parents, but that
No,
sounds
that's
like something that you had to have been
Something
aware
came.
of, something that most third and fourth graders don't think about stuff like that.
It was actually, so my parents, I was the oldest of 3 girls, and my dad, I mean, I never heard him say the word fat ever.
Mm-hmm.
My mom would be on the twirly, what is that?
So an eating disorder is an addiction, just like substance abuse.
Thanks for that. She would be on the twirly phone, because we are so old. They have
Yeah,
the
the
curly,
cord.
The rotary
curly
phone.
cord, yes.
Oh, the cord.
And
Yeah.
she would be talking to her sister, and they would be talking to each other, or I'd be at lunch with some of my relatives that were adults, female relatives, and they would say things like we say. Like, I would catch myself saying, "Oh, I shouldn't eat that," and then I look around and my 8-year-old daughter's right there, and I'm thinking, "No, this is," but never directly to me.
Yeah.
I did have a relative, just an older relative, just a couple years older than me, that did maybe make me aware of, we need to be skinny. Do you know that you can eat and throw up and you won't gain any weight? But she was only a couple years older than me, and
really?
so kind of like a.
Is it a side note? Do you know if she still or did struggle with that?
She does still struggle with
Okay.
it. Yeah.
So maybe is there any genetics that play into eating disorders as well? Like, is it hereditary? Is it more?
They're saying that you could be more susceptible to something like an eating disorder. Just this, there is a genetic pull. Just like I said with alcoholism, some people will take one sip of alcohol and they will struggle with it their whole lives. Other people, they don't, and that's more that you can be more susceptible to it. But it's not, it's not a curse. You can always get through it.
Okay, well, see, my experience is, it's limited, but most of the people that I've heard of with eating disorders, they struggle with it their entire life or they die. Is it something that's like alcoholism where you have to kind of be Alcoholics Anonymous and boom, I'm cold turkey. I'm aware of the fact that I am anorexic, and then you're anorexic for the rest of your life, and you just cope with the symptoms of anorexia for the rest of your life?
Yeah.
Is that
it's
what it is?
It's a constant, yeah, it is. It's like
So
every
you
day
haven't,
I
so
have
right
to
now
be aware.
you know that you have the propensity to be an anorexic and you have to force yourself to not behave in a way.
Yes.
Recently,
Yes.
you kind of just had like, not maybe a relapse, but kind of like
You struggle. Yeah. And I have a sponsor and I have check-in points where for me it's like red, yellow, green light behavior. So if I'm in green, that means I'm getting through meals, and sometimes it feels like I'm forcing myself through a meal. It's not like I'm enjoying food, and sometimes I have to get to a place where other people, and I've met with dietitians and stuff, but where they have to show me what a normal portion is because I'm so messed up that way. My brain is messed up that way and I accept it. But so green light means I'm doing what I need to do. And it also means that I'm not going to the gym for 3 hours, that I'm living a balanced life. I'm staying balanced. Yellow is when I start recognizing that maybe, did I eat lunch today? No, but I didn't do it on purpose. I just got busy. But that's something I need to be aware of and maybe reach out to people. So I have steps in line to keep me where I need to.
indicators, like, yeah.
And red is bad. Red is like I've gone a couple of days without eating, and this is, the more that I do that, the harder it is for me to pull myself out. But in the end, I'm the only one that can be accountable. So I have to want to be better. And often I'll go back to my journal that I wrote every day when I was at Remuda, and I'll start reading. I won't even finish the journal entry of the first page, and I'm like, oh, hell no. I'm not going back there.
Really?
Because it was so awful to be away from my family. And
Yeah, that's one thing I want to know is, were your kids kind of aware of, like, that time and, like, the turmoil? Like, how aware keyed in were they to, like, my mom doesn't eat? Like, what the heck?
yeah. So we're really open with my kids, and they read my blogs, and sometimes I write about them, and they're just like, oh my gosh, Mom.
Have some privacy.
13, 11, and 8.
Wow.
So I have two boys, and then Bella is my 8-year-old. But when I went away, Bella was 13 months, and so my parents actually ended up bringing her hair because John obviously had to work, and Brayden, Jack turned 4 while I was in there, which was like a crappy day. Here I am away from my kid who's having his 4th birthday. And so Braden must have been 5.
How long were you in Remuda for?
I was in the facility for 45 days, and then I went to the
45 days straight? Wow.
And it was like, some people tried to escape because it was so awful, but you're in the middle of the desert, and they ended up coming back because they were like, rattlesnake!
It's like Alcatraz.
I'm coming back.
Javelina!
What's Remuda like, or what's like a rehab? I mean, I'm sure it's a lot of like mental coaching and self.
Yeah, tons of therapy.
But is it like spoon feeding, IV? What?
Yes. So when I got there, I hadn't eaten for a while. I mean, I was eating enough to stay alive, but
like crackers or something.
Yeah, very little. And so I had to be on a liquid diet for the first 2 weeks, which was like oatmeal and soup. But my digestive system, you would have thought that I was like eating glass because it was just like raw. It hadn't done. It was so crazy how that could upset. But I had the choice when I got in. I either had to drink Ensures after every meal, which now the sight of them, and I'm like gagging, or get a tube in my nose, which if you choose the tube goes down to your stomach, and in the middle of the night, the nurses come in and hook you up to a machine, and it pretty much just dumps calories into you until you get a healthy weight. So there's tons of medical people on. They have to be really near. There's dentists, because if you're bulimic for a long time, a lot of times you'll have to have teeth work done. So it's there's always nurses and doctors everywhere. And then there's the therapy, and you do individual therapy and group therapy and art therapy and all the therapies. That's why I would run away.
If you could boil it down to the one thing that well, okay, first I want to know this. Did you meet anybody, or have you met anybody along the way that has lost their battle to eating disorders?
Yeah. There's probably 6 or 7 that were there when I was there, and then ones that I didn't know, but that other girls that I was there with.
Yeah, that's really sad. I mean, it's hard to, when you're in a healthy mindset, to think like
it gets that
bad that somebody could actually lose their life. And that's what was the one thing that your takeaway from? I'm sure they did lots of therapies and stuff, but what was like the aha moment, or like the one thing that you can take away and say, this is what like I learned from that experience?
One of the things that was the hardest thing for me to learn, but that sticks with me, is that I actually don't see myself the way other people do. And they have this test, and I was so mad when they did this, because I thought, okay, I can believe a lot of this crap, but this is too far. You cannot look me in the eyes and tell me that I don't see myself the right way when I look in a mirror. But they did this test where there's a couple steps, and some of it's, you have to like draw what you think you look like and then measure yourself. And I was terrified, because I was afraid that I would be the one person that thought I was actually skinnier than I really was. And I'm like, then I'm going to be screwed up for life. So I was so scared. But I ended up being somewhere between 52 and 56 pounds. So I see myself 52 or 56 pounds more than I am when I look in the mirror.
Really? Is that called body dysmorphia? Is that what that's called?
Yeah.
So now, like,
but I would see everyone else.
When you look at yourself in the mirror right now, do you see yourself? I mean, just be like, I mean, I know you're going to be honest, but like when you look at yourself right now, the way you look, do you see yourself as
fat?
You see yourself as fat right now?
Yeah.
Like, do you
and
see
if
it
I'm
in
not
your
careful,
body? Do you see
I
it
will
in your
start
face?
like pinching myself and stretching myself. I mean, when you're grabbing your wrist and going, look how fat I am, you know there's something wrong with you.
So like right now,
you can't tell how skinny TC is.
Yeah.
It's because I've been working on the moonwalk, burning all those calories.
Yeah.
Wow. So even right now, knowing that you have a problem, or that's something you're struggling with, you see yourself as an overweight person. But when you see yourself next to someone who is overweight, do you see yourself the same as them?
Yeah, that's the thing, is that a lot of people will say, so then do you see everybody else as 50 some odd pounds overweight? And I don't. And I would say on occasion that I have been out and about with friends, and we'll go clothes shopping, and I'll say, just throw me your size and I'll try on your size, and they're like, are you kidding me? And I will put on the pants because I see us at the same size, and I am still disbelieving that they're not fitting me because I see us as the same size. So there's moments. So that's one thing that I learned, and I hated learning, was that I've done so much damage to myself and my brain by over the years without even realizing that I don't see myself the way other people see me, and so I can't trust myself when it comes to that, and that's hard. But that taught me that I can't do this by myself. I have to reach out. I have to have help. I have to have support. I have to have people that I can go to that can help me. And in the end, honestly, I've learned, and I go and I talk to people about this at conferences, that it doesn't even matter. Even if I was exactly what I look like, what I see myself in the mirror, in the end, we live in this society that tells us that we should look a way that most of us can't even genetically do without having surgery, and it's just not realistic.
So, saying that you know that, do you believe that, or is it something you have to does that absorb into you, or is it something you have to like convince yourself of? Like, I know that
Yes, I call that like my mind knows something, but my heart feels something different, and they have to come together, and they haven't. And so at times, and actually more than ever, I do believe that, and I think that has a lot to do just with how, I don't know, just how I feel. I see how my family sees me and how they love me, and how I would love my kids no matter what, and not to get religious, but just how I learned how God loves us. And that helps me, because the world is full of lies for men and for women. You guys get judged a lot on how much money you make and you know how you provide, and that's a lot of self-worth to you. And women, it's the way we look, and we have to stay looking young, and nobody wants to age anymore, and it's a hard world to live in, I think.
Yeah, I think that's the overall, positive message from this, is just to be able to love and accept yourself for who you are. Where are you at right now with things and with your life? Like, how have you, like, what's your life day to day, struggling with it or staying ahead of it?
For the most part, on day to day, I'm starting to enjoy food.
What's your favorite food to eat?
You're going to laugh because it's not even going to sound awesome. It's probably totally eating disorder because it's healthy. I love fish. I love fish.
So you like to really eat a good piece of halibut?
Oh, yeah, or salmon.
Really?
That's like the opposite to me. If I was dying and like I caught a fish, like
it
in the
goes
wilderness.
back to the X-Man, the fishy scale.
Yeah,
Maybe
there you go.
Then I would be like, oh, fish. Oh, I guess I'd eat it so I don't die.
She just thinks scales are attractive.
I'm into scales.
But I can honestly say that I think that for a time when I was in junior high, I think I maybe I don't think I necessarily had dysmorphia, but I was obsessed with trying to be bigger.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes boys,
yes,
they're obsessed with trying to be as strong and as big and as muscular as possible. I don't know any boys that want to be as fat as possible, but
yeah.
I've told you about how I would check out of class right before the bell and go do dips on the sink in the bathroom just so that my arms would be pumped up when it'd be time to walk through the hallways.
That's awesome.
That's gone away now.
Is it creatine? Creatine was the big thing that I remember the boys. Was it a shake that they would make?
When I was in high school, that was in the 80s. That was like Rocky when you're drinking raw eggs. And
when we were in high school, creatine was like the new big thing. That was like, and all the old people said it would blow your heart out. Stuff
but
like
we
that.
did it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, my son he's 13 and he's in the 4% because both John and I are just genetically pretty
skinny,
little.
Yeah.
And we were late bloomers too, both of us. So, but we have taken him to an endocrinologist to make sure he has his growth hormones and stuff. But he's the littlest in his whole 7th grade, even with the girls. And it's hard for boys to be little.
Yeah, we were talking
and
before.
for girls
It's
to
not
be
as hard as it
tall.
used to be. Like it used to be.
Like,
I think now
something's
it's
wrong with
become
you.
like more acceptable for boys to not be the old school traditional masculine.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I see it all the time where a boy that isn't traditionally masculine still gets along great with
Yeah.
girls, gets plenty of girls.
Yeah.
But I do think it's probably still an issue.
Yeah.
So does he feel insecure about being small?
He does at times. He's really fast. He runs track, and recently he's credited his littleness to that, and so I'm letting him go with it.
Yeah.
Because he'll run. He runs.
He's the short, fast guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and so that's working. But it's. I mean, if it was my daughter's in the 2 percentile. She's little,
So
but we don't have the same concerns because she's a girl and he's a boy, and there's just a kind of a weird. Boys need to. If people are going to make fun of them if they're little and tiny.
Yeah, you probably in junior high. Trent and I were
You
the
guys are
smallest
small.
kids in junior high, and that's
Yeah.
how we became
That's
friends.
amazing.
And I mean, I'm
That's what
not
brought you
big
guys
now,
together.
You're
I'm
huge.
bigger. I for sure was a late,
215, right?
late
No, 195.
190 right now.
You're 190.
Yeah,
Man, you're
I-
a solid sucker.
yeah. I for sure was.
Should I leave you two alone?
Yeah.
We're gonna go fight over at the gym. In a minute. I for sure was a late bloomer too, and
Yeah.
and was small. So and it was hard, I did feel like I've matured physically like later. I mean,
Yeah.
not like puberty, but like man size.
Yeah.
I was still growing when I was 23.
Yeah.
So that was interesting.
Yeah, there is stigma on that,
Mhm.
and I always tell if I can give women any advice, and
Yes.
even guys, but if I can give women any advice, it's do not say things about yourself that are negative, period, but especially do not say it in front of your daughters. Like, don't, and it's so easy to do. It's just so easy to be like, oh, I shouldn't have had that ice cream, or, oh man, I haven't lost this baby weight, because they hear it, and if we're putting someone's emphasis on something that really has nothing to do with our worth and our value, then we're passing on, and that's how they'll start measuring themselves. And as dads, especially with your daughters, just let them know that they're always loved, and that if any guy measures them that way, kick that kid.
Yeah.
Okay,
We,
so
shotgun
you know,
out
there's
on
a
the
couple.
floor.
There's a couple minutes left, TC.
Okay.
So I would like you to say, what would you recommend for people that are fully aware that they have an eating disorder and they aren't getting help? What would you tell to those people?
The last thing they want to hear is talk to someone, to open up to someone, whether it's a trusted
They seem
friend.
so. The people that I know
family
seem
member.
so introverted and so
They
quiet.
isolate, because I'm an extrovert, but when I'm in my eating disorder, I don't want to be around anyone. Food is such a huge part of our culture, and with my kids now in school, I'm always getting invited. Let's go to lunch. Let's go to, it's always
The mom lunch
there.
culture, yeah.
The mom lunch culture.
so
yes.
if anybody's struggling with that, would you be okay if they reached out to
Oh,
you?
absolutely.
Like, yeah, we'll put your contact
Absolutely.
information because I know you're kind of an advocate for that.
And we started an organization. It's called Warriors Redeemed, and so they can join that. And there's also discussions on Facebook and just tons of support. Everybody that's there has an eating disorder, so there's not unsolicited advice. It's a safe place where you can say, I am struggling so much right now, and you're safe.
That's awesome. We'll share that too.
Okay.
Well, what about on the opposite side? Maybe people who don't recognize.
Yeah, like
or
what
what
would
signs
be-
would people look for of early signs of an eating disorder that you could help someone with?
So there's a website. It's NEDA, National Eating Disorder Awareness.
okay.
Yes, and they have, if you wonder if you fall into these categories, they have tests you can take, and if you take the test and you're honest, I don't eat until dinner time, or if I know I'm going out to eat, I won't eat anything else that day. If you've ever purged, if you've ever binged, and then also. Eating disorders are not just anorexia and bulimia. The number one eating disorder right now is binge eating. People are drugging themselves with sugar, and you're hearing more and more and more of
So
that.
that's also classified as an eating disorder,
And
which I think
believe
is
in-
probably the one no one really talks about or acknowledges, to be honest.
Yes, and that one actually, I think it was 2013, so that was just recently added.
it seems weird to me that people who are eating that much and going to one extreme is not considered as bad.
It is
as
weird.
the one where it's like.
Do you think
Yes.
it's because someone who's skinny is still more socially accepted, and someone who's overweight from binge eating, it's like more of a socially.
They get a pass,
it's like like you're being more judgmental to say,
Yeah.
like, man, you've got a disorder. You're
gotta-
eating too
you
much
gotta
because
get
you're.
control of your
Yeah,
life.
yeah.
Because it's the same thing, and a lot of times it's the same feelings that start. They just manifest differently.
And go in a different
They
direction.
do, but they're the same thing, and it's just as scary. It's just as bad for your health. But yeah, there is more attention given to.
Well, for sure. I
an
mean, the number
anorexic.
one cause of death is heart disease, and heart disease is caused by.
It's getting worse. All
Yeah.
statistics and metrics prove that's getting worse.
Well, and the number one mortality rate for mental health is eating disorders. So
Really?
if you
So
put
eating
those two
disorders is the
together,
most deadly form of
mental health.
health.
More than depression, more than anxiety,
Really?
suicide. Yeah.
It's probably not more than suicide, because that's always death, right?
Yeah. Well, wait.
Like not
Oh,
rate
wait.
like that.
Yeah. Suicide
Not
isn't a mental diagnosis, is it? It's
okay.
like anxiety
That's- yeah,
and
that's
stuff
what-
that
that's what-
comes up.
okay.
Yeah, that's a 100% mortality rate.
We're out of time,
Yeah.
basically.
Probably.
Right?
Yeah.
Well,
I hope I
TC,
helped. I
you
hope I-
for
For
sure
sure.
helped, and
Question.
honestly, like your bravery and your willingness to talk, and I think that's I think you'll be surprised at how many people might reach out to you, or like at least that we'll hear secondarily how much this helped.
Yeah.
And we'd love to have you to come back and
Yeah,
talk maybe with John
anytime.
about the other subject
Yeah.
as well, because I think that's something. It's again, you're honestly inspirational to me,
Oh.
even as your friend. And my wife and I have talked before about like, man, look how honest and like upfront TC is about these really hard things that everybody else would like sweep under the rug.
Yeah.
But I think that it's people like you that honestly make a difference.
Thanks.
And that really help people's lives, because nobody that's willing to sweep it under the rug or not talk about it is going to
No.
help anybody. And so
Yeah.
the people on here are saying they love you and you're so brave. And so
you.
it's
Great
really,
stuff.
yeah, really cool.
You guys are nice.
Thank you guys so much for watching
Yeah.
on the podcast or Periscope. Tell your friends if you liked it. Make sure you email support@Riven Gear to get your free piece of apparel, and we'll get you taken care of that
Thanks,
way.
TC.
You're
So
welcome,
appreciate it.
guys.
Thank you so
Anytime.
much.
Thank you. That was
Thank
interesting.
you.